Always one.
I'll call this meeting to order, September 18th at 7:07. Verification of meeting posted. This meeting was posted in accordance with all open meeting laws. Attendance roll call.
Jason?
Here.
Lori? Here. Kevin?
Here.
Terry?
Here.
Bob?
Here.
Brett?
Here.
And myself.
Tracy.
Tracy. We're all here.
And if we would all stand for the pledge of allegiance. Lori, would you lead us?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Motion to approve the agenda.
So moved.
Second. Any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion is approved. Consent agenda. Motion to approve consent agenda as presented.
So moved. Second.
Does anyone want any item removed for individual consideration? Any other discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Student representation.
Hello, I'm Hannah, by the way. I didn't get to meet any of you.
Welcome.
We'll start off with Muskego High School. So on the second day of school, we had our Live Like a Warrior Day, which included a club fair, a One Warrior Assembly for each separate grade level, and that explained what One Warrior means to the students. We also had our Warriors Welcome event for the teachers. So the parents got to walk their children's schedules and interact with their student teachers and hear about the things their students will be learning in class. Students in grades 9 and 10 took their pre-ACT tests, and students in grade 11 took their practice ACTs for preparation of the real ACT in March. Muskego is now offering a new co-curricular club for female students so they can participate and compete in flag football. This is offered through the NFL Flag Initiative, and if participating, all the costs are covered by the Green Bay Packers, which is kind of cool. Last week was Muskego High School's homecoming week. Students are excited to dress up for Spirit Week, and that all led up to the big homecoming game, which is Muskego versus McGuanago. And Muskego won 31-21 over McGuanago, so they sealed in the win. We'll move on to Lake Danoon. At Lake Danoon, the 6th through 8th graders will be exploring the Academic Career Planning, or ACP, through Lake Danoon's new Timberwolf Pathfinders monthly class. Lake Danoon students also took their iReady diagnostics for math and reading. They had their Spirit Week, and during this week they took their school pictures also, and today and tomorrow the students will receive a suicide prevention presentation from the student services team. So they'll learn about the warning signs, what to look out for, problem solving when dealing with the situation surrounding suicide or self-harm. At Muskego Lakes Middle School, in the first few days, Muskego Lakes students participated in their first community day of the year. So they collaborated with other students and they focused on goal-setting discussions. They also took their iReady diagnostics for reading and math, and these tests help the staff to cater to students' learning and show the students' projected growth throughout the school year. Muskego Lakes also had its Spirit Week, and the students got their school pictures taken also. Moving on to Mill Valley, on September 6th, Mill Valley had its first Golden Awards Assembly, which recognizes entire classrooms that demonstrate positive behaviors in and around the school. They also award the Respectful Royalty Award to students who are nominated by teachers that go above and beyond being a good role model. They also recognized a Paw Print Award, in which students are selected every Friday, and they get a little shout out on the announcements. Mill Valley starts its Spirit Week this week, and today they dressed up in USA attire, and they do a color run on Friday, which is a way for the PTO to raise money for the students. All school field trip to the zoo, the One Book, One School reading program, and then they give back $75 to each teacher for the money they spent on their classroom items. And then, we have two more. Lakeview, staff and teachers warmly welcome the new students of Lakeview students. And the students jump straight into their new schedules and routines for the year. Lakeview kindergarteners had a staggered first 4 days so they could get into the swing of things, and that helped ensure a smooth transition into elementary school. And finally, Bay Lane Elementary, they have a new walk/bike path that allows children to have a safer way to get to school, and that's away from all the traffic and the buses. And the 3rd and 4th graders at Bay Lane participated in the Green Bay Packers outreach program. So they got to participate in 5 different football-related stations, and then 2 staff members of the Green Bay Packers were there to teach about healthy ways of eating and exercise. And that's all I have.
Thank you.
Thank you, Hannah, and welcome.
Yes.
Thank you so
It was
much.
thorough.
Nice to meet you.
Excellent job. I just want to add, I was recently at a restaurant where some of our students were for homecoming for dinner, and they specifically wanted to tell me that the students that were there were incredibly respectful and very kind. The waitress, all of the servers, the hostess, both the hostess and the server said they were an absolute delight to have there for homecoming, so it was really nice. So great job.
Did you get to go to homecoming?
I did. It was
Nice.
very
All right, superintendent report.
Well, and this is my last superintendent report, so it's still surreal, but, and I gave my spiel back in June when this fine board approved my request to retire. But again, just want to thank the board, community, the students, the administration, past board members, our partnerships with the police and other entities within our really fine community. It's been a wonderful ride, and I'm going to miss being here. But I know that it's time to move on so that other people can be here and move the district into, just greater and, even more wonderful things. So I've felt blessed along the way, and just so much gratitude in my heart. So thank you so much. Really do appreciate it. So with that, we'll move into the annual budget booklet. And so Julie has a little preview for the board and the community.
Yep, the annual booklet preview, and this is essentially last year's booklet. The content will remain, or the format will remain the same. Once the board approves a budget this evening, all those numbers will be updated. And we'll have an updated booklet that will go to print for the annual meeting in October.
So as you go through it, if there are things, like for example, the dollar bill is always so important, But if there are other things that you want to make sure are still in there, or that you have questions about, let Julie know before annual meeting. We also have an update on summer school numbers. This is part of our budget that supports, really our summer school program supports our K-12 budget, and Jeff has an update on that.
Yeah, thank you. So some people choose to go to Disney over summer. Others choose to visit Europe. And then there are others that choose our summer school program, which is like Disney and Europe. It's a fabulous opportunity to keep the minds and the bodies active during the summer. As you can tell, our numbers continue to be unbelievably strong. We have over 50% of our students that actually participate in at least one class, and many of those students participate in multiple classes over the summertime. So you can see there are 2 visuals there that we provided for you. One is just the raw number of participants in the trend from 2013 all the way through present day.
See, we don't have it up here, Jeff. We start in 2013 with 685 participants, and in 2023 we have 2,545. So
Yeah.
just huge growth.
Yeah, pretty significant. And then we also provided another link which shows the number of FTE by year. And then in the end, that equates to dollars and cents in revenue for the district, which we're still waiting on. But again, if you go back to 2013, we had received 26 FTE through our summer school program, and we are up to 229 FTE from this year.
Which is
So-
a full-time equivalent of a student. So a student, spends only a few hours in summer school, but when we add those all up, we get to count 229 more students just because of their enrollment in summer.
So pretty cool. And really want to send a kudos and a thanks publicly to our administrators who begin planning for this even this fall. So Jessica Prokop, Josh Griffey, Josh Hoff, Elise Harris, Nancy Pash, and John McEwing do a stellar job getting our students, families, and staff assembled for summer learning. So great opportunity for our system.
And the variety of opportunities for students, just swim lessons, just those are, life skills. So it's wonderful. So thank you, Jeff, for your leadership in that area. Thank you.
Jeff, for each class, how much does that contribute to our FTE? Like a tenth, 1/10 of an FTE?
It's the hours.
It's
So it
48,600 minutes per FTE.
And about how many classes do we put in?
Oh. A spreadsheet somewhere.
That comes to the board in spring, so all of those courses that are offered,
But does it give us how much it applies towards the?
well, it's an hour, an
Yeah.
hour time, and then depending on how many students enroll in each one of the classes.
Right.
And then summer school for high school is like a course, which are, and then there are week-long courses. So a student can go through learning about different types of sports, and so that's outside of the 4-week summer school. It's 1 week and it's in-depth learning about different sports. Swim lessons is outside of that. It's a one-time, so 3 times a year or 3 times during the summer. So lots of opportunities.
6. How many?
Yeah, I used to always think it was just kids getting their gym out of the way, but it's more.
Oh my
than
God,
that.
grown into a lot more. Yeah.
It's
Well, and
more
it
than
used to
that.
be that. I mean,
Yes,
that's what it all
was.
used
Yes,
to be, but now, yeah.
Yeah.
Those high schoolers not wanting to get their hair wet during the school day.
It's a great
One,
opportunity.
between our online and in-person classes, we have just around 100 courses that we offer.
That's great. Thank you.
I'm surprised you haven't had to move it to a bigger venue because you have so much going on.
They do well. They do well figuring out what we need. And it's great that we can have so many outdoor options as well.
Yeah, for sure.
Significantly contributes to making it easier.
Yeah, for sure.
All right, and we have some guests here. We are going to be talking about service dog at the high school, so I don't know who's kicking it off. Is it Jeff, Jeremiah, or
Yeah.
Todd?
So we have Mr. Irvine here that will be able to talk a little bit about the opportunity. I think back in July, you had referenced that we were looking to have a dog, a canine unit in the building. So why don't you talk a little bit more about where we're at?
Sure, thank you. If you want to go to the next slide. One of the things I really love about my job is sometimes you're at an event and someone comes up to you and starts a conversation and they plant these little wonderful seeds in your ear where you're like, hey, I was just thinking, what would happen if we had a service dog with our SRO, and what would you think about that? And kind of sparked up this great conversation around how many different pathways would that open up to build connections with our students and continue to expand upon the feeling of our students understanding that our school resource officers are an incredible support system and a true part of what it means to be part of the One Warrior family. So again, that seed was planted, and then to which you have to start talking to other great minds and saying, well, there's not a lot of districts, or there wasn't any districts we could find that actually had this in place. What are the questions that we really need to wrestle with to ensure that we have the ability to do that, that we're not pushing any boundaries too far from a compulsory attendance standpoint and students showing up and being able to engage in their free public learning experience. So if you click to the next slide, we had to really wrestle with what was our primary purpose going to be. Service animals can do a lot of different things, and it's really awesome to see how much the training has progressed. One of the things that has really become a powerful tool is that opportunity in weapons detection. So as you talk about school safety and the different opportunities we have to do everything we can to ensure that our school buildings are free from weapons, it's a really compelling question to ask. And then you think about the different ways in which animals, dogs in particular, have been used as as a comfort animal or a therapy dog in a number of different ways in which they can help de-escalate a situation. And the reality is sometimes when we're working in the high school setting with some young adults who maybe made not the best decisions and they're kind of in a moment of crisis, and the different things we can try to do to help de-escalate them and prevent it from going on a pathway that none of us want it to go down. And the use of a service animal oftentimes is actually highly effective. Actually, during the pandemic, the year we were back with masks, I was able to bring my own dog to school once a month just as an opportunity to kind of build some school culture. And we had a young lady who really struggled significantly with emotional regulation. Actually was in a point of crisis, was getting ready to run out of the building and saw the dog and stopped immediately and came over to pet the dog, and it was one of the most miraculous things I'd seen. There's all sorts of cool stories about how service animals can really play a key support in helping students who sometimes struggle with emotional regulation. And then obviously we already have a pathway opened up in which we utilize service dogs for drug detection. Just today we had a canine search on our premise in our parking lot. So it's already a key part of the partnership that we have with our police force. So it was really kind of those three key aspects. And then the fourth one we talked about obviously is really reinforcing that one warrior concept, that every chance we have to interact with young adults, the more we can do to create a positive relationship and rapport, the greater the likelihood that we're going to be on a pathway that ends positively for everyone. We want students excited to show up to school, and if a mistake happens, anything we can do to help navigate that conversation in the best way possible is going to help us keep moving in the right direction. Next slide. So obviously we had to really do some digging to see what would this look like. There's costs associated with it. Everyone understands that budgets are a critical conversation in every aspect of the public sector, whether it be our police force or our school. Argued many times that I think we have the best community around. Our community has stepped forward in multiple different ways to support our police department. Currently, the service animals that they use, the drug dogs, are funded through crowdsourcing, and it has been incredibly successful to the point where they are in a position right now where they could move forward with this and not create any additional needs for costs right now. Optimistic that that could continue to be publicly funded in that sense. One of the things I would like to speak to, though, as a building, I think it'd be really important that some of our co-curricular activities perhaps take on some of the ownership and make a commitment to that as well. So, for example, I would love our student council to run a fundraising opportunity to say, we're going to provide the food for the dog for the next year. We have a lot of service-oriented student clubs, and I think it would be a great kind of mutual gesture to demonstrate that it's awesome that our police force wants to partner in this, and it's awesome that our school district wants to build this partnership. Let's help create a pathway where our students own some of it as well and can actually rally together to help cover some of the costs. There's obviously costs associated with training. Those are all things that are kind of built into a budget that we're confident we already have covered, but nonetheless, I think there's opportunities that help our young adults understand we all share the responsibility to keep our schools safe, and that might involve contributing to the purchase or the upkeep and training of an animal that's there to help all of us. Next slide. So again, we've had to research the logistics of how this would work. What we would plan on is the dog would be present in school every day with our school resource officer. There are times when it would not be at school because there's a certain number of days of training it has to engage in every month to keep its certification. The dog would be different than perhaps what we're used to seeing in our canine searches right now for drugs. Those are usually German Shepherds. This would likely be a Labrador Retriever, though we're still researching some of the different dogs that are available, so a little bit more cute and cuddly. If this is really going to be a service animal, we don't want any students afraid of, again, not that our other canines aren't cute and cuddly, but sometimes they present slightly differently than Air Buddy. So we're working on that. Additionally, some of our traditional canines have different methods of indicating. Some of them, like paw, or get pretty excited. This would be a passive indication, so the dog may just simply sit down. It may follow someone. So it would be a lot more discreet, and it would empower the SRO to have a greater opportunity to assess the situation. I didn't add this bullet point, but I love it. We would have a bed in the office for this dog, because if the dog gets tired, we don't want our Snoop dog walking around the building all day not having a comfy place. We want them happy as well. But that really is intended. There would be a crate. So sometimes the SRO may be called out in different duties where the dog doesn't need to be a part of it. We would have a safe place to keep the dog, so it's not like it would restrict their ability to move in any way. And I've already had about 75 different volunteers in our main office who said if the SRO needs to go somewhere, they can leave it at my desk. So I'm optimistic that won't be a challenge. Another great question that was asked as we navigated through this is the liability of having a service animal in our building. There are other districts that have service animals. Oftentimes it's associated with the student service office. So then the district kind of takes that ownership of liability on itself entirely. Because this would be contracted and partnered through with our Muskego Police Department, their liability actually covers that. So it's another kind of great opportunity for us. The things that we receive some guidance from our legal counsel on are ensuring that we cover our bases for communicating to our families that this is a new tool that we have. Obviously, again, students show up to school with the expectation that they're not necessarily going to be searched every single day when they walk into our building. So we need to make it common knowledge that as you enter this building, there is a service animal on our premise. We would also add communication directly to all families via Infinite Campus to ensure that all families were made aware that we do indeed have a service animal that is partnered with our SRO, that is trained as a service animal, is also trained to detect weapons, and also could be utilized to detect drugs.
So just one thing, Mr. Irvine, we did put a sample notice that we would send out in communication to our families. That's in board docs, so you can see what that might look like. We had legal counsel work with us on crafting a message that would become a notice to provide families. Additionally, Mr. Irvine did say that we would provide notification also at our front entryway, so we're still working on those pieces.
And obviously Chief Westfall and I are huge Air Buddy fans. We've seen all the movies together. So we got a little excited about this, but open to other questions you might have about the potential partnership. Yes, sir.
First comment is I just absolutely love the creativity and the thinking outside the box. We see it all across the district. This is just another example of that, so thank you for that. A couple of questions. If a dog indicates passively, and I guess maybe this may lead into my second question on, is the dog an officer, like your other dogs are, correct? I mean, your other dogs have their, and I don't pretend to know all of those things that come with that, but, so, if a dog indicates, does that give you the right to do what?
Basically, that's going to be your either reasonable suspicion or probable cause to conduct a more further search. And I will tell you, your goals are a little wrong. I know you're the most popular mammal in the school, but we're looking to change that. Dr. Thompson, thank you so much for your continued support and congratulations on your retirement. We may cancel that yet, in the next couple of weeks. But I'm going to actually, Lieutenant Sean Dietrich is our first canine handler we've ever had in the city of Muskego, and he is now our canine coordinator, and he'd be more apt to answer that specific question as far as canine, case law, all those type of things. And obviously, he mentioned weapons. It's like, well, how are they going to pick up on a weapon? It's actually the gunpowder that we'd be looking at. And if you, and I know this district, and I know what's about One Warrior. This is something that's completely new. I don't think it's being done anywhere else in the state of Wisconsin, but this is one of those things that it gives us opportunities all over the school to pick up on the things that we're most concerned about with our children in this building, and that's firearms and drugs. And then on the other side, obviously, I've already gotten feedback from the police department of like, hey, we're not counselors, we're police officers first. That's not going to change. And that's why I said, maybe the dog has to get dropped off in Todd's office when the officer runs. But Lieutenant Dietrich.
All right, so the dog doesn't really change anything that is already happening. So from before I became a handler, I was at Bay Lane for a while. So it's just another resource to use. So if the dog does indicate for a weapon or for drugs, yeah, there's your probable cause for a search. Now, just as we do handle a lot of things with the school, it's like, okay, this is what we got. We're going to walk that path together, and then we're going to figure out the best avenue from there, whatever the result is, how to handle that. That's not always a police, he needs a ticket, he's got to be put in handcuffs, we're hauling him off to jail kind of thing. That might just be school consequences. That's a feeling out process. Everything's going to be a little different depending on who the student is and what the circumstance is.
Okay, thank you. My last question is SRO rotation. If the dog goes home at the SRO, we have an SRO rotation, what happens?
So, that's a good question.
You want me to take it?
There's two avenues we can go with it. I think some people are leaning one way. So the dog really becomes integrated in your life. My dog is on the back end of life at the moment, and I can't picture spending less than like 2 or 3 hours a day with him, just because it's always the training, it's always the thing. So with that said, I think this is probably a little bit longer term for the next SRO rotation for that when the dog comes in, because we're probably gonna wanna keep them together as a team. Now, this dog's a little bit different than like my dog did apprehension, so there's different bonding thing with that. For this dog, yeah, there'll be that bond, but if we really needed to, we could transition that dog to a different SRO 4 or 5 years down the line if we had to. So there are different options for it. I think we're pretty much gonna have to feel it out as we go, but I think the overall feeling is that we probably keep them together and the SRO would be at the school a little more long-term.
I think a real positive aspect to that as well is the partnership that we've had in talking about what's working, where are we at with those relationships. So as we kind of navigate this the first time, we're gonna have to have those conversations. One of my greatest fears is if we are able to get this to happen, the dog will spend more time at Muskego Lakes, Lake Danoon, Mill Valley, every other school, because if there is a dog associated with our SRO, that SRO might be spending the majority of its time bouncing to every building, because that dog will legit be the most popular mammal in Muskego.
So I have a question, just because we have service dogs all the time at the hospital, they have to be like hypoallergenic, and so are you looking at something like that for students that may have issues with dog hair and dog?
So we've talked about, that's been in a discussion, and I don't know that we've really picked a certain breed in particular.
We have Labradors, but they must go through shots or something so that they're not shedding or something. Because we do have these dogs that so I know that it's possible to have longer hair dogs, but they must have to go through something so that they're not shedding and not causing allergic reactions.
Yeah, so I mean, that's definitely something to look at. The hospital setting's a little bit different than the school, even though there's probably some of the same allergy aspects to that. You have some dogs now, right, running around?
True.
So, I guess that's kind of where we were like, well, we have all these different breed options, from anything from a golden retriever to a lab to, you can go to the really hyperallergenic ones that are bred that way, or you could do the shots if you wanted to. If it doesn't cause an issue, my goal would for the dog not to have the shots.
Okay.
But obviously, if it's something that needs to be done, that's what we're gonna do to make it happen. We wanna be the least disruptive, okay, there's gonna be a dog running around the schools, right? There's gonna be a little bit of something going on. Kids are gonna talk, they're gonna see it, they're gonna get excited, that kind of thing. But the goal is for this to be the least disruptive as possible. This isn't something where I want it to become a distraction. I still want school to be focused on doing school things. And, one of the things with having the dog there is I think it should cut down on some of the other things that happen, like today. You had canine sniff at the school, right? Outside today, right, in the parking lots. But we also do interior in the school, in the classrooms. But with the dog like this, now, if you have a complaint about a classroom, now you can go use that dog for that one classroom. And it disrupts that one classroom for 5 minutes, instead of shutting a whole school down and doing the whole hour-long thing. Now we got a little more flexibility and a little least disruptive that way too.
Yeah, and just so you guys know, UWM Nursing School has a dog for the nursing students, and it's a therapy dog, and literally sits outside in the hallway, and the students can just go and veg with the dog. And it's been very well received by the nursing students.
Yeah, on the therapy side of things, that's the goal on the therapy side of things. If you have a kid that's just having a rough moment, rather than completely, get off the rails, totally disruptive, and all of a sudden you're taking, sending them home or whatever. Now 5-10 minutes with the dog, relax, ease, put them right back in the classroom, get them into that environment with learning again, and I think that's a win for them.
Again, not that he's not cute and cuddly looking, but it's very different when a student is pulled in to talk to an officer and there's a dog sitting there.
Yeah.
It really does help disarm and kind of create a little bit more of a, okay, I'm okay.
Kind of embarrassing to have the students going up and petting him on the head, right?
Good thing he's tall.
I love this idea. When I read through it, it was just like, yeah, this is something I'm hoping that with our discussion, we really are gonna move forward with this. In fact, I think that's one of the things that separates Muskego, McWanago, and many of the other districts from the districts that are having trouble is the students in many of the larger cities have a disconnect between themselves and the police. And I think it's very important that they have a strong personal relationship, and adding a service dog, I think, is just gonna be something that is just gonna help strengthen that relationship in Muskego. And I know with the service dogs we've had in the past, generally it's been hands-off for the students because they're not trained for that. This is a great thing, I think, to really help get, like I said, get that dynamic between the police and the students, because really there shouldn't be the type of fear that they have in a lot of these other schools that many of them do. My question is, right now, the idea is to get one. Is there hopefully plans in the future for each of the SROs to have a service animal, or is it just, let's go with one?
I'll have you stand by, just one at this time. This is a pilot program, obviously, I'm just messing with it.
Completely pilot, so.
Yeah, so there's gonna be a lot of new things that come up if this gets put in place, right? There's gonna be a lot of firsts that we haven't thought of. There's gonna be a lot of firsts that happen that hopefully are really good. One of the questions we asked Officer Lang, who's just, he's absolutely killing it at the high school, was, hey, you're busy. Can you do this extra responsibility with the dog? He assured us, he said, yeah, I'll be really, really busy. But he's like, yeah, that sounds great. That sounds like a great opportunity. I think when we get through the first couple of years here, we see how it's kind of working itself out. That is always a possibility, but let's see, I'm looking 5 years, I'll be in her shoes, so right about that time, we do a couple more dogs.
So then Officer Lang will be rotating to like the middle school, not all the time obviously, but on occasion, so the students can really get to know the service animal, or is it mainly just gonna be at the high school?
So the way I envision it, and then, so the other input and how the school wants to handle it and how the school district wants to handle it, is I see it hubbed at the high school. I think that's where the biggest, when you look at the safety needs of it, that's where the biggest safety needs are. Now, you have something going on at the middle school and we want to bring the dog, introduce it to the kids. We do the week where we go read with the kids, we bring the dog in for that. Those kind of things. I don't want to take them out of the high school just so people can pet the dog necessarily, but God forbid we have a traumatic event at one of the middle schools. That's a day where they have the conversation, gonna be out of the building for at least half a day, and they go to, Bay Lane or wherever, and the dog helps those kids through whatever they're working through. That's kind of how I see it, but mainly the main focus and the most amount of time will be at the high school.
And they currently do an incredible job kind of transitioning, so there are times when Officer Lang might be called out on a SWAT call to another community, and the number of times where Officer Crystalidis or another SRO shows up, or a community officer, they're honestly great about ensuring we have coverage when needed. And going back to your original question as well, one of the things I love about our district is the focus on continuous improvement. We make a change and we pilot it, we study it, we pay attention to what's working well, what challenges did we face, how do we continue to improve it and make it even better. For us to make it better, I do believe there'll be times when we need to integrate it into some of the other buildings just to see how it works and how it's responding to.
I would like to see, at least at the middle school level, some exposure at Bradley or something. So that the kids know, hey, we do have the service animal that's available to us at the high school. And maybe even, as you said, if there's something that affects the kids, and we all know kids are kids and accidents happen and they very often need that extra.
Yeah. I see if this gets gets off the ground here, I could see that first month or two when this gets off the ground, that SRO is pretty busy moving around, because I think it's important at that initial point of the school year at the beginning there to have that exposure to it. Now, whether that's on orientation days, registration days, whatever, trying to make the dog available so we can get all the kids as much exposure so they understand that resource is there. Yeah.
Great, thank you.
So this is the first presentation to us, so the next step would
They'll
be,
be continuing to look through this, and then in October, when you're at the high school, they'll give an update on, you know, where this program is at the
okay.
point.
And then I probably like the cost, because I know canines are not inexpensive. So I mean, that cost kind of laid out so that we're aware of where that is and what responsibilities might fall on the district versus the police department versus fundraising, things like that. Because it's not like just getting a dog. This is it's a little bit different purchase.
Correct.
of a dog and training.
Yep.
The other thing is just concerned that I wouldn't want our SRO from the high school being removed more than they would be now, or for specific things, just to visit other schools. I mean, the SRO is there for safety there, so that would just be as much as I'd love to have it go all over the place, I think its primary job would be there, and our SRO needs to be there as much as possible. That would be just my thoughts. And how long does a dog train for that work? I mean, doing your canine can't work as long as probably this dog?
Yes, correct. Probably different breeds on top of it, so that there's some longevity there, plus the type of work. You're not doing any of the searching and stuff like that. This dog isn't gonna be doing that jumping in and out of the car as much as the other dogs did. So training, doing firearms and narcotics detection, we can have the dog trained up probably in about 4 weeks. The therapy certification is a much longer process. It's really inoculating the dog to different environments and different stimulus so they don't overreact, and a lot of obedience stuff. And in order to get that therapy certification, you actually can't test for the certification until 6 months that you and the dog are together. So we could, if we pick up this dog, let's say January, it's not gonna be till June, July, till the dog can first start testing for that therapy portion of that. So.
Well, anyone that knows me is, I love dogs. I'd have one right here if I could. All right, well then October, anyone else have any other
I have
questions?
one quick question. What reporting or metrics are you guys going to come up with to show the effectiveness for this?
Great question. So still kind of trying to parse through that, because
Okay.
we could certainly use our current level of indication on when we find students with vapes or drugs in our building.
Right.
If we find more, is that better?
Right. Well, no, I mean, and not just that, but I mean, how many situations were maybe de-escalated versus otherwise,
Yep.
where this was a positive experience
Yeah.
versus something that could have gone a very different way?
Correct, and I don't know what kind of documentation the school has for that already, like
Okay.
the kid, just acts out and they just physically can't be in the school anymore, so at least the best option is to send them home. We'd have to look at that versus, okay, now the following year, how many incidents do you
Okay.
have? If you just want, just a little snippet on the drug stuff, when we first started doing drug sniffs a long time ago, it went like this. I mean, it skyrocketed, as it should, because all of a sudden nobody's used to that, and all of a sudden it happens.
Right.
And then we had that nosedive to it. I
Okay.
could see that happening here too with some of that, and hopefully with the dog around, you never have
Right.
the firearms portion of that.
Right. Okay.
It's a great question, though. We're really wrestling with that,
Okay.
because I do believe it will help de-escalate situations. Worst case scenario for us is when a student gets handcuffed in our building.
Right.
No one wins in that. It's just, so if that doesn't happen frequently, so to say we've improved from one time a year to 0, that's still an important improvement on a very significant event that's oftentimes traumatic on multiple layers.
Right.
So we're still brainstorming the ways we can try to demonstrate its effectiveness.
And some of it may not be quantitative.
Understood.
Right?
I get that.
Yeah.
But sometimes there's a way that you can boost your case
Just tell the story. Yeah.
through some forms of data, so.
and hopefully we'll be able to get some student anecdotal conversations on the impact it's had on them in the building and their perception of our school resource officers and.
Student engagement survey.
Sounds
Oh,
like
wonderful.
the English paper.
Thank you so much for being here and presenting this wonderful idea, and we look forward to an update in October, so thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you.
The next item on the superintendent's report is the WASB Regional 11 meeting, which is on October 10th. If you're planning on attending, please let Lori know and she'll get you all registered. And then the contributions of the to the profession are listed with Jeff and Jim Schlig and Jeremiah doing wonderful things out in our professional organizations. And I think Courtney, you had one too. But I don't see it. Okay, and that concludes the superintendent's report.
Excellent, thank you. Other reports. So at this time, I am going to allow two people that turned in cards to speak. And I will call Mr. Buckmaster.
Is this on? That's okay. So thank you very much, Madam President. I wanted to express my sincere appreciation to Dr. Thompson. I think throughout my 9 years on the board and the last 4 as president, you were amazing to work with. We've seen some of the greatest, most complicated situations, and we as a board and a community have worked through it with your passion, right? Your relationship to the teachers, the staff, the students, and parents is incredible. From an elementary level, I think you're just like a unicorn. You make magic happen. And, and I saw that on the wall, right, as we're walking through the schools. You see all that stuff. And so, I could go on and on and on. But I just want to say thank you. I appreciate your time, the talent, and really the treasure that you've left us. A school district that is amazing. And I can only say that you're going to be a hard one to forget. So thank you very much. All right, you bet.
Very good, Chris. And Rick Pitfalski.
I'm shocked Chris got that down to 75 seconds.
I was ready.
I was going to bring a pillow. Kelly, I just came here tonight to thank you. What you did in this district was truly transformative. I was here. I was on the board for 15 years. I've lived in this community for 26 years almost. Where we were as a district, we were a good district. We're a great district now, and you're a big part of that. The 30 years you spent, as a staff member, and the last 10 as 10 plus as superintendent. You've really taken the ball and ran with it, and I'm proud to know you. You've I got notes here that otherwise I was just going to forget. You really did make us a district of choice. Your leadership, your style is something that I aspire to try to emulate at times. I'm not nearly as good at any of it, but I try to at times. Your collaboration you do with not only your staff and the board, but the community as a whole. People notice that and they appreciate it. One of the cool things as being mayor that I get to do is I can do proclamations. So I don't have it ready here tonight, but I will be announcing it tomorrow at our council meeting that September 30th will be Kelly Thompson Day in the city of Muskego. So if you have time tomorrow, if you want to stop at our meeting at 6, it should be a quick meeting, but if you don't, I'll get you the plaque, that's fine. I know it's last minute. I really should have done it when Chris left for him, but so I will be making September 31st Chris Buckmaster Day. And we can do that every year. But I thank you for your leadership, your vision, and your grace, and above and beyond your friendship. Best of luck, and I won't miss you because I still plan on keeping in touch. So thank you.
I'm gonna save mine for last, so I will go to other board member reports. So, Brett?
Just a couple things. I believe the first week in October is Board Member Appreciation Week. So everybody hopefully will be appreciated that week. The second thing is about the WSB regional meetings. I hope everybody will take the opportunity to sign up and go. It's going to be at Brookfield Marriott, I believe, this time, so it's a lot closer for many of us. And Kelly, you're invited too, more than happy to have you.
Embassy Suites,
Pardon me?
Embassy Suites, I think it's that.
Yeah.
Is it? Okay. It was going around for a while, so we finally got, but we finally got to move back to somewhere closer for us to Brookfield, so it's much more convenient. And there will be some discussion about some of the things that are going on because we have a new executive director there as well, so some things are changing a little bit. But there's also going to be some discussion around the new governance model that WSB developed. So hopefully everybody gets a chance to go. It should be very informative. Thank you.
No committee reports second, right? So that's
Yeah,
not
no
this
committees
piece.
yet, just
Okay.
board member reports.
Kelly, just a thank you. It's learning personally from you about just how to handle just really intense things that we've been through as a community and a board and as a country, and just to watch you navigate that and share with the entire district how to address those things in a manner that you do. I, like Rick, do not do that very well sometimes, and to learn from somebody who seems to have that down pat. So thank you for the example that you've been.
Tracy?
Yeah, so I attached the CISA one update. Our meeting is actually tomorrow. It's always one day after. And then also I do have something little for you, Kelly. That I thought would be kind of fun to, it is a children's poem, which I think is appropriate for you. And then I also have a send-off, and it's 1 minute long, and you may remember this.
There is no place that shows spirit as Muskego High School. Given that you're still officially seniors for a few more minutes, let's show your spirit and celebrate your victory of making it through high school by bringing one last senior bachelor. Thank you, seniors, for helping with this. Seniors, please stand. Are you ready? For your last senior bachelor, please go with me and get down. Seniors, don't be shy. Stand and give your bell. VRCTOR1. Victory is our battle cry. Seniors, don't be shy. Stand and give your battle cry.
That's my battle cry out to you, Kelly. You did a fabulous job. I appreciate everything you've done for me and really have supported me along the way. You not forced me, but suggested for me to run. And, so, yeah. And it was a good decision. I appreciate that, and I appreciate everything along the years that I've known you longer than this role, so it's been fun. It's been great. Thank you. Thank you.
Kevin?
Congratulations. You still have time to change your mind.
Yeah.
30th is not here yet. But congratulations, enjoy retirement. Hopefully we'll see you and stay in touch with everyone.
So Kelly, it's been great. I know my time's been short. It's only been a year and a half, even though it seems longer, but I've always appreciated your open-mindedness and your flexibility and always willing to talk or answer a question. And I've enjoyed our conversations that usually start with something education related, but always end up family.
Yeah.
And just that collegial friendship, which was so easy to make. So I wish you the best of luck. I think you're a very noble person, and I really respect you for making this tough choice, and God bless you.
Jason?
I didn't have a chance to work with you nearly as long as anybody else, but I can say as a parent, what you've done in this district is the reason why we moved here. Seriously, like, for us to find a school district that clearly sets students above everything else it was good. It was the reason we moved here, and I am grateful for that. So thank you.
All right. So I found as much black as I possibly could because I'm in mourning.
I am too, I guess.
30 years, thank you. It's a long time for you to give to our community, to our district, to our kids. You've helped raise a lot of our kids. I've learned a lot from you. I will still be calling you to help me work through some things, I'm sure. The amazing things you've done for this district, you can't even begin to list them all. I've been doing stuff with this district almost 20 years, and being able to work closely with you for at least the last 5 has been just a gift. I wanted a few more, but your decision to retire, we've talked about that many times. It was not an easy one. It's a big change. It's not going to be an easy role transition for you. And a friendship that you've made with me and so many other people will continue to help you be strong through this whole transition. You'll be hugely missed. It will be very difficult to fill your shoes. And I feel sorry for the next person going in here, but we will do our best. You've left a legacy on all these people. It's such a strong team that you should be just so proud of what you've built, and the strength that is behind you is what's going to continue to drive us. So I wish you well on your journey. I will miss you dearly, and we'll stay in touch.
Yes. Thank you. Thank you.
All right, let's all leave now.
Yes, let's leave.
No, Julie,
Okay.
we're not going anywhere.
Meeting reports. Either Kevin or Bob, whichever.
Sure. So the policy committee met today for the second time, really for the first time to dig into a number of the policies. We met with Richard from Neola, who presented us with 18 policies in round 1 to take a look at. We made it through about half of them. We'll do the other half in the beginning part of October. And then that's at that time that we will also look through the checklist that we will use as we bring policies forward to make sure that we're consistent in our review and that we present it to the board in a manner that everybody's confident that we've gone through all of the different checklists. And thank you to Dr. Thompson for helping with that. Tracy also provided some information as well, so thank you. I think we've got a good start on a brand new committee, so it's good.
Thank you.
So, yeah, Educational Services Committee is continuing to meet opposite of the CPC so that we can stay in parallel with review of the new revised and enhanced and massaged and whatever new courses that we have the privilege of being able to do based on our new spaces. So it's really exciting. And so we've been very busy because we're meeting a lot to just make sure that we've got this done so that it can go into the guides for next year and be available and ready to roll. So I thank our committee for being flexible and Andy for all your good information.
Thank you to both of you for chairing the committees. I know I kind of started this ball back in play with the committees, and I know it's asking a lot of extra work of chair and committee members. But I do feel strongly that it has enhanced what we do as a board, and just gives us another check and balance on what we do and how closely we look at things to make sure things are in place. So I really, really appreciate all the extra time and work you guys put in. I know it's a ton of work and a ton of meetings, so thank you.
And Terry, thank you, because I know no one knows this, but Terry comes to all of these meetings, whether they're the committee, whether they're the faculty, and allows us to be able to use her wisdom and institutional knowledge, which I don't have a whole lot of because I'm more of a newbie on this. So I appreciate that you're always there and mentoring.
Thank you. All right, moving on. Resolution action items. 2023-24 preliminary budget and tax levy.
Motion to approve the 2023-24 preliminary budget as presented.
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion?
No,
Ready to discuss?
Yes, please.
Okay, at the last meeting, we went through the budget, the general operations budget, and we also talked about the tax levy. In board docs, right now I have the budget adoption workbook. If you click on that, that's an Excel document that we're required to put forward. It'll be part of the annual meeting packet. It'll also be posted in the newspaper. So these are all of our funds, general operations, special ed, debt, food service, listed out by line item as required per DPI. So this is the overall budget that you'll be approving on a preliminary basis this evening. Again, from logistics standpoint, we have our third Friday count. So our third Friday was last Friday, so we'll get our official student count within the next couple weeks. We will also receive our October 1st equalized valuations. That will change these numbers a little bit. And October 15th equalization date obviously is the biggest one that can have an impact on our budget. So we will have that on October 15th. So this is what will go into the annual meeting. This is what will be approved at the annual meeting. And then moving forward, a few minutes after the annual meeting, we'll have an updated budget and finalized budget for you to approve. With regard to the tax levy, we did talk about a tax levy increase this year for the first time in a long time. And again, that levy increase is a result of how the state is funding schools. It's very different than it's been funded in the past. And so we are receiving a revenue limit increase of $325 per student. In the past, we haven't seen numbers like that. The state has also put money into the state aid formula, but not enough to take on that whole increase. So from a revenue limit perspective, if we get more money and we don't get enough aid to support that entire pot, the tax levy does make up for the difference. So at the last meeting, we talked through what that looked like, and we also talked through how we need to go back and do better and find ways that that impact of 5% is not felt by the taxpayers. So I did email a document to you. There's been a slightly updated one put into board docs. And I'll explain why in just a minute. But Lori, that's the one, or Ryan, if we can pull up that document. We did put together a one-pager for you to be able to review as we talk about the actual impact of a 5% tax levy increase. And talking with Rick at the city and also looking at information at the state level, there are a number of factors that are playing into the impact to the actual homeowner. So our overall levy, again, is going up 5.13%. And in the first chart that you see there, those are the numbers listed. So we're looking at our levy from 22-23 to 23-24 going up about 1.5 million. That's the 5.13% increase. The state has also put a more significant than in the past amount of money into what's called a tax levy credit. The tax levy credit are dollars that are going into and go directly to the municipality to help offset a school district tax levy and help reduce taxes. We haven't seen an increase like that in many years, and so it is relatively significant. As you see here, that's about $1.4-ish million of a levy credit. So what will happen is, on the tax bill, we will actually put forward an increase of a tax levy. However, the levy credit is a deduct on the tax bill, and it's listed separately. That deduct will increase enough to help offset the levy, so the average homeowner will actually feel a net levy increase of about a 0.64%. Then in talking with the city, if you scroll down just a little bit, Ryan, thank you. We have a net new construction number of 1.61%. What this means is there was new construction in the city that went onto the tax roll. So if we were to change nothing and submit the same levy as we did last year, everybody's taxes would go down because we're spreading that levy over 1.6% more property value. So If you look at the next chart, again, looking at the tax levy minus the levy credit gives us that net levy. If we take out the net new construction value, which is the 1.61%, the total impact is actually a decrease to the average homeowner. So we would see a 1% decrease on average. Now, everybody's tax bill will vary depending on their property values and such. But in general, when we look at the actual levy going up, the impact that homeowners will feel is actually a decrease on their tax bill. So I hope that answers questions and gives you some talking points as we move forward and ask you to approve a 5% tax levy increase, knowing that these items will happen, they're already in the budget, and that will happen on the city side when they print out the tax bills.
Is there a way that the district can send this out, like email to every parents? Because I have a feeling that people are gonna see the 5% and they're like, oh my gosh, that's crazy, and they're not gonna know the whole story behind it.
We could. I mean, I guess I would leave that up to the board's discretion. I think that could raise a lot more questions than that, but happy to share that information.
I know,
any way that
Julie,
you
you're
see
always,
fit.
well, you people have questions, to speak to them and walk through it.
Mhm.
I
If
feel
people
like
have
that's
questions.
has helped in the past. You explain it very well, and to have, like, all of us trying to explain it in different ways, I sometimes can get confusing. I generally direct them to you.
So they will physically see a 25% decrease on their tax.
Oh,
No.
1%.
1%. No, the tax levy credit.
Okay, so the tax levy credit itself, it can vary from homeowner to homeowner. So they put 27% more into the pot, and because our property valuations are going up at the same average as the state, about 13%, we should see that 27% hit. So that credit amount should go up by that amount, but again, it can vary to vary. I can't say that.
But will it actually go up, or will the taxes just be down?
So there's a line item that's a school levy credit, that's
Yeah.
just shown in parentheses. That number will go
Will
up.
say, oh, okay.
So the number that you'll see in your tax bill, that first line item for
Right.
general school taxes will be up, estimated 5%. That levy credit will also be up, potentially an estimated 27%.
I guess I just don't recall that being on, but I don't
It's
think
like
I've
the
ever
last-
looked
So
for it.
for, I mean, and if you think about it, when you look at your tax bill, you look at, okay, what did I pay this year, what did I pay last year overall? And if it goes down, you're not really questioning, I mean, right, I mean, a lot of people question it, some people do, some people don't, but, in general, what you want to see is not having to pay more than you did last year.
Right. I mean, that's what,
And there are other credits on the tax bill too, so there's a lottery credit, I believe.
Yes,
and
yeah.
First dollar credit, and these other things, so. It's just the way that we are going to have that impact shown is going to be shown very differently than we have in the past.
right. It's just that we're getting so much more money per child
Mhm.
that it's really offsetting everything. We should be able to spend that all on them, right?
So kind of the end of an era.
How,
I'm sorry, go ahead, Jason.
how likely is it to shift significantly once the final numbers come in?
It usually doesn't, like, we usually don't see our age shift significantly once we get to this point because most school districts have reported. I will say, assuming MPS has reported, because they're the big swing factor for us. Assuming they have reported, it should be about a 1% swing here or there. Based on the July estimates, from what I'm told, those July estimates factored in any MPS things. So that's what we based our numbers off of. We should start to see a little bit more sooner, and if it's significant, we'll have a backup plan.
Okay.
But we shouldn't see a significant shift. We're usually pretty close.
So it's now the end of an era. We had 12 years where we actually were able to decrease the tax levy because of state aid and actions we were taking with open enrollment seats and summer school FTEs and four-year-old kindergarten and all the good stuff that we do to try and bring the tax money, our tax levy down.
And how the state funded us.
And how the state funded,
So we received
yeah,
a
that
lot
was-
more categorical aid, which was outside of that revenue limit. So our pie wasn't growing and we didn't have the authority
Yeah,
Right.
all that stuff we did to bring it down, so now we can't do that, you can't say we did 13 years ago. But we did take a lot of action that did help keep it lower, and then on top of it, the way it just happened to work out. But my question is, I believe this is correct, and please correct me if I'm wrong. So when we figure out our tax levy, we use the mill rate to divide that out among the citizens within our school district.
We use mill rate, yes.
Yes. The tax levy credit is kind of the same way, but instead of it being calculated based on the city, it's calculated based on the state average, and it goes to the individual homes that way. So instead of us being property rich and the state aid affecting us that way, being property rich, the tax levy credit helps us. Is that correct?
It does help us because we are property rich, yes.
Yeah. So the actual tax levy affects the district, while the levy credit is like throughout the whole state, and being at the kind of, not way up there, but up far enough that we can get that benefit. So that's part of the reason we were able to get a better.
That is one of the reasons, yes. If they were to take that pool of money and put it into the aid formula, we would not benefit the same way because it would be distributed to poorer districts.
Right. Thank you.
Anybody else have any questions or discussion for the preliminary budget?
I just wanted to thank Julie for that last table down there. That really, I think, is going to help explain to the citizens how that affects everything. It's just a really, to me, it explains, self-explanatory.
Thank you for all your hard work on that.
Team effort.
Is that going into the booklet too, or not?
You know, I didn't think about it, but we could.
I think that'd be a bad
Okay.
idea. Don't you think?
That might be a way to get it out because that is available then on our website.
Right.
Okay, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, motion carries. Gifts, grants, and bequests.
Motion to approve with thanks the following donations. $108,432 to support instruction for continuing academic achievement of students and overall student improvement systems. Title, I should have said the first one was Title 1-A. Second one is Title 2-A, $56,423 to support the ongoing training and professional development of staff. Title 4-A, $10,000 to support the effective use of technology and well-rounded education of students. The peer review mentoring grant, which is $4,108.40 to support the continuing onboarding and training for first through third grade teachers. The Muskego High School Wrestling, $15,000 from the Muskego Wrestling Club for wall mats in the wrestling room, and $250 from David Mahoney. Muskego High School Girls Basketball, $4,000 from the Muskego Girls Basketball Association. Muskego High School Football, $10,000 from the MHS Gridiron Club, LTD. Muskego High School Robotics, $1,000 from Christopher and Carrie Maupin. $3,000 from Material Control Solutions. Muskego High School Automotive Program, $5,254.85 worth of materials from the Muskego Fleet Farm.
So moved.
Did you second?
Discussion?
Thank
Thank
you.
you. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Moving on to discussion items, policy 0131.1. So the reason why this came forward is because we added the policy committee, and previously we would read our policies 3 times. So we wanted to change that because the policy committee then will read it the first time, and then it would come to the board on their recommendation. We wouldn't have to have the board read it 3 times. They would be considered that first reading. Is there anything as a chair of the committee that you want to share on that?
Well, some of the discussion tonight was with regard to the time from the first reading at the policy committee to have anybody who had questions on it, needed clarity, had some concerns, would have typically an entire month before it would come to the board. So it, and Richard from Neola also commented that the ability for anyone now to go in and, instead of having paper copies that we used to have, be able to go in and essentially read it themselves online should be, for the most part, adequate enough time for everybody and all stakeholders to be able to make comments or share their concerns. So we can, the last part that I would say is that all policy reviews and things like that, should we approve this, would then fall underneath it immediately. So even the work that we did tonight with reviewing them and asking questions and things like that, we could then bring forth at a later meeting and consider that our first reading as soon as this is enacted. So is this where I ask for it to be? Okay, so I am asking for us to, making a motion to move this from discussion to immediate action, so that we can move forward with the other policies.
I'll second.
Okay.
Who's gonna second it?
Right.
Kevin. You both said it at the same time.
All right, Kevin,
Split it
Kevin's got it.
50-50.
Well, and I also wanted to just say one last thing is that Ryan did put on the school district website everyone's listings of committees and stuff so that people should have a good understanding of who to contact. So, thank you, Ryan.
Okay, so we have a first, we have a second discussion. This is just a motion to move it to immediate action. All in favor?
May I suggest a roll call vote because it does require unanimous consent from the board in order to move it forward.
We can do that if everybody was going to be all in favor of it being anonymous. Go ahead.
Brett?
Aye.
Bob?
Aye.
Gary? Kevin?
Aye.
Lori?
Aye.
Jason? Myself, aye.
Okay, nobody, any opposed? No, okay. So now the motion would be to approve motion to approve policy 0131.1 as presented with the changes that we have as presented here. Second.
Okay, guys.
All right, Kevin, discussion?
Is it Kevin? Okay.
So Bob, you said that it would be presented after the committee reading, it would be presented at a later board meeting. Not the same evening though? We want a little time there between the first reading and the second.
Right, so for example, next meeting is October 2nd. We're going to go through the remaining policies. At that time, I would think that all 18 of the ones that we reviewed would show up on the next board meeting. So I suppose it could be less than 30 days because this next one is
It just
not.
wouldn't be at the
It's
same
not at the same.
At a later date.
Right, at a later date.
Yeah.
And that's been our practice for the Educational Services Committee as well, unless there's something that we need to move forward faster.
And the only other thing would be, when it comes to the board, traditionally what we've done is the first reading has been a discussion item. Second reading, it's on the consent agenda, and third reading is on the consent agenda. So when it comes to the board, the first time it would be a discussion item rather than on the consent agenda?
Go right to action.
Should go right to action, right?
Wait, no, from the committee to the board.
Yeah.
It would go immediately to action?
Yes.
I thought we wanted a little time there to.
Well, if the board needs that time, they can always say, we're gonna have this on action again. You know, they could have another
You could
month.
table.
That's a pretty big shift, but.
But we're just removing one reading.
Right, which is a big shift. I mean, we used to have three, but, I mean, in the past, we never really made any changes between the second and third, I know, but.
If a board member feels on some policy that they need another week, several weeks or month to look
Yes,
at something,
table it.
then you can talk about it at that board meeting. But I think the majority of them, I don't see waiting that long for approval would be a problem.
Well, and I think the intent of the policy committee meetings is to have a more robust conversation, and we typically did at board meetings.
Correct.
Because it's one of many things in a board meeting, but in the policy committee meetings, I mean, that's what we're there discussing.
Yeah, I understand.
So it's much longer, it's much more of a robust conversation, plus you have all the stakeholders able to go in and look at it themselves, give us feedback, things like that. So I agree with you, it's a bigger shift as one week, but I think we're putting guardrails around it to make sure that everybody has enough time to digest it.
So, but in theory, you could have, like, on October, when is our first meeting after, in October, is that the,
6th.
the 6th? Thank you.
We have 2 board meetings in October.
Right, because of the.
That's the only,
just
yeah.
Trying to make
Yeah.
sure I had that right. So you could potentially approve something to go on to the board on the 2nd, you have it be done on the 6th, so in 4 days, you could have gone through the process. That's something, that might be a bit.
Again, if you would feel that was
Right.
too short for whatever policy was, then you can request that we have longer time. I mean, there's flexibility there.
And we can, so let's say there's 1 out of the 18, you could pass 17 out of the 18, right now 1 holds back for another meeting.
Doesn't have to go any faster than the board is.
Right.
But
Right.
if it
Yeah.
allows for it to not be
And-
slowed up,
And
you
we,
know.
we can have that understanding, and we can go, when it gets to the actual practice, sometimes it might feel that way, so. I'm looking out for not just this board, but future board members as well, so. Okay.
Okay, do a roll call vote.
Since it got moved to a comment or to action, may I make a comment since it's been moved to an action? Because generally, do you take public comment when it's an action item?
It's up to the chair.
Sure.
Rachel Meyer, 4145 South 6975 Brentwood Drive. I am concerned that by removing some of the discussion time at the board meeting, that people in the public may not be aware when these policies come up. And so they may miss because we don't usually see the minutes from a policy committee or ESE meeting until the following board meeting. So a community member wouldn't know what policies were up unless they happened to read the board agenda. So I'm concerned that there may be some lack of transparency and people knowing in the community what policies might be up and how to address any concerns they might have about them.
Okay, thank you for your Any other discussion? Okay, I'm gonna do a roll call again. Yep.
All right. Brett,
Aye.
Bob, Terry,
Aye.
Kevin,
Hi.
Lori,
Aye.
Jason.
Aye.
Okay. The motion is approved. And information follow-up, financials, you can find those there, personnel information memo, and communication of miscellaneous business authorized by law. And number 9, motion to adjourn.
I got this.
Okay, Jason and then Kevin.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye. Aye.